Before a single word leaves your mouth, before your expression shifts or your body moves, there is something that precedes all of it, your energy. It is subtle, but it is unmistakable. It does not shout, it does not announce itself, yet it is the first thing another person senses when you enter a space. This energy is not mystical or unreachable. It is the natural extension of your inner state. Your thoughts, emotions, breath, and level of self-awareness radiate outward, shaping how others perceive you long before you intentionally communicate anything at all. Your energy is influenced by what occupies your mind. If your thoughts are chaotic, anxious, or filled with self-doubt, this becomes the invisible fog surrounding you. People cannot name it, but they instinctively feel it. Likewise, when your inner world is calm and aligned, your presence becomes grounding. Others feel more at ease simply by being near you. This is why some people can enter a room and shift its atmosphere without a single word. Their energy is organized, their attention is steady, their breath is anchored. They carry themselves with a quiet, centered confidence that does not need to be proven, because it is already expressed through the state of their being. To understand how your energy speaks before you do, you must first understand the constant communication between your inner and outer selves. The mind influences the body, and the body reflects the mind. When your breathing is shallow, your shoulders tense, your movements hurried, it reveals what is happening within you. When your breath is slow, your body relaxed, your gestures fluid, it communicates stability and presence. People respond to these signals instinctively, even if they do not consciously notice them. Attraction, comfort, trust, and respect are all shaped by these subtle cues long before language has the chance to intervene. Your energy also reflects your relationship with yourself. Someone who is at peace with who they are does not need to grasp for validation or attention. Their presence feels complete, not because they are perfect, but because they are not internally fragmented. They are whole enough to stand in silence without feeling invisible, to allow others to speak without feeling threatened, and to give space without feeling forgotten. This sense of inner sufficiency is deeply magnetic. It draws people in effortlessly because it signals emotional safety, authenticity, and self-respect. When you desire someone to crave your presence, it is tempting to focus on external strategies. What to say, how to act, what impression to create. But these are secondary. The primary influence is always your energy. If your actions are motivated by neediness, fear, or insecurity, no amount of polished behavior will conceal it. But when your energy is rooted in grounded self-worth, even simple gestures take on a different dimensionality. The tone of your voice becomes soothing rather than seeking. Your eye contact becomes confident rather than searching. Your silence becomes spacious rather than uncomfortable. Your presence becomes something felt rather than something performed. Energy also communicates your emotional landscape. If you carry unresolved anger, sadness, or resentment, this energy leaks into every interaction. People feel tension around you even if you speak politely. On the other hand, when you cultivate emotional clarity, by acknowledging your feelings, regulating your reactions, and not allowing your inner world to become tangled, your energy becomes clean. A clean energy field does not mean you are emotionless, it means your emotions do not control you. This level of mastery is subtle, but it is compelling because it signals maturity. A person who can hold themselves steady is someone others instinctively trust. Your energy is further shaped by your level of presence. When your attention is scattered or you are mentally elsewhere, people sense disconnection. They feel as though you are physically present but energetically absent. But when you bring your awareness fully into the moment, feeling your breath, grounding through your body, listening deeply, your presence becomes concentrated. People feel seen without being judged, heard without being rushed, valued without being controlled. This creates a powerful emotional resonance that lingers even after you leave. Another component of the energy you project comes from your relationship with boundaries. When you have weak boundaries, your energy disperses. You become too accessible, too blended into the needs and expectations of others. This creates an energy of instability. But when you maintain strong, healthy boundaries, your energy consolidates. You do not overextend yourself. You do not leak emotional resources. You do not abandon yourself to gain approval. Others feel this containment. They sense that your presence is not something that can be taken for granted, and this naturally increases their desire to be close to you. Your energy speaks through the way you carry your past. If you hold on to old wounds, unresolved experiences, or narratives that diminish your worth, your energy becomes heavy. People feel the weight even if they cannot explain it. But when you release what no longer serves you, your energy becomes lighter, freer, more expansive. A person who has made peace with their past radiates a quiet strength that is impossible to ignore. They do not need to hide behind masks or roles. Their authenticity becomes their magnetism. Ultimately, the energy you bring into the world is a direct reflection of the inner work you have done. No technique can replace the power of genuine self-alignment. When you cultivate clarity, confidence, and calm within yourself, people feel it without needing explanations. This is why energy precedes words. Your presence is not defined by what you say. It is defined by who you are becoming in each moment through your awareness, discipline, and sincerity, as silence is often misunderstood. Many people associate it with distance, disinterest, or emotional withdrawal. But silence, when used with awareness and intention, becomes one of the most powerful forms of communication. It holds a kind of depth that spoken words cannot always reach. Silence is not the absence of connection, it is the container that allows connection to deepen. It creates room for curiosity to grow, for thoughts to settle, and for emotions to reveal themselves without being forced. In human relationships, especially when attraction is involved, silence carries a unique power. When you are silent, not as a strategy to manipulate, but as a reflection of inner composure, you create a space that invites the other person to lean in. Silence allows them to wonder about you, to think about you, to fill in the gaps with their own imagination. It triggers a natural human response. When something is not immediately accessible, the mind begins to seek it. Curiosity becomes a bridge that brings someone toward you. Many people try to create connection by doing more, talking more, explaining more, proving more, providing more reassurance than anyone asked for. But in the attempt to be understood, they leave no room for another person to actively participate in the experience. When you overexpress, overshare, or constantly fill the space with your presence, you remove the opportunity for the other person to contribute their curiosity. They do not get to wonder, they are simply fed information. And what requires no effort to know rarely feels precious. Silence allows you to step back so that someone else can step forward. It is in the pauses between your actions that they begin to take action themselves. It is in the quiet spaces between your words that they begin to think of their own. It is when you are not constantly available that they begin to notice the shift in their emotions. Silence gives space for longing to breathe. Curiosity is born from contrast. Without stillness, movement loses its meaning. Without quiet, sound becomes overwhelming. Without distance, closeness becomes ordinary. Silence creates the contrast that makes your presence feel more valuable. It gives the other person the chance to feel the difference between your presence and your absence. And it is often in that difference that emotional impact grows. Silence also communicates self-control. When you are able to sit with your own emotions without immediately expressing them, you show a form of maturity that is rare. Most people react quickly, sometimes impulsively, driven by fear or discomfort. But when you can hold your center even in moments of intensity, your silence reveals that you are guided by clarity rather than reactivity. This is deeply attractive because it signals emotional stability. Others feel safer around those who are not controlled by their impulses. There is also a certain elegance in restraint. Not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every detail needs to be shared. Not every feeling needs to be announced. When you hold back just enough, you allow mystery to remain. And humans are naturally drawn to mystery. A little mystery invites exploration. It signals that there is more to discover, more to understand, more to unfold over time. Silence becomes the doorway through which someone steps if they want to know you deeper. In silence, you also reclaim your power. When you speak only when it is necessary, when your words are chosen rather than spilled, the value of what you say increases. People listen more closely. They sense the intention behind your communication. Silence becomes the frame around your words, giving them structure and emphasis. You no longer blend into the noise of everyday conversations. Your presence stands out because it does not demand attention. It naturally draws it. Silence allows emotions to surface in the other person as well. When you are quiet, they begin to reflect. They notice the effect you have on them. They start to realize what they miss when you are not speaking. Silence can make someone more aware of their own feelings than any amount of talking could. In that reflective space, they begin to ask themselves questions. Why am I thinking about her? Why do I want to hear from her? Why does her quietness feel different? These questions fuel attraction in a way that direct expression cannot. Silence is also a teacher. It teaches patience, both for yourself and for others. It teaches you to observe rather than rush. It shows you what emotions arise when you are not filling the space with noise. It reveals what is real and what is temporary. It helps you hear what your intuition whispers beneath the surface. And in relationships, it reveals the intentions of others. When you are silent, you give them the opportunity to show their level of interest, effort, and sincerity. If someone values you, they will move toward you even when you are not pushing. If they do not, silence exposes that truth without conflict. Silence does not mean shutting down emotionally. It means becoming selective with your expression. It means not acting from insecurity. It means giving room for connection to breathe. It means trusting that what is meant for you will not require you to chase or overwhelm. Silence is a form of confidence because it shows you believe in the natural flow of things rather than forcing outcomes. In the end, silence is not empty, it is full. It contains your dignity, your awareness, your depth, your mystery, and your strength. It speaks without sound. It communicates without pressure. It allows curiosity to grow naturally within the heart and mind of the one you desire. Through silence, you create space. Space for someone to feel you, to think of you, and to move toward you with genuine intention. There is a profound difference between moving with intention and moving with anxiety. One is grounded, deliberate, and aligned with your inner compass. The other is reactive, rushed, and shaped by fear. When your choices come from anxiety, your energy becomes scattered. Your words become uncertain. Your actions lose clarity. But when you move with intention, every step carries meaning. Every gesture holds confidence. Every interaction reflects self-awareness rather than emotional turbulence. Anxiety-driven movement is easy to recognize. It shows up in the need to fix things quickly, to seek reassurance, to over-explain, to chase validation, or to respond immediately even when your mind is not settled. When anxiety pushes you forward, you are not truly choosing, you are escaping discomfort. You are trying to outrun silence, rejection, confusion, or the unknown. This kind of movement is never stable. It drains your energy and weakens your presence because it communicates one message: I am not centered. Intention-driven movement, on the other hand, begins from stillness. Before acting, you breathe, you observe, you feel, you choose. You do not let fear dictate your actions. You do not let external pressure overwhelm your inner knowing. You decide your next step based on clarity rather than urgency. And when you do this, your energy becomes organized. People can sense the difference instantly. When you move with intention in relationships, you stop giving your power away. You do not rush to respond to messages. You do not speak with the hope of being liked. You do not act from the fear of losing someone. You are no longer trying to prove your worth, you are simply expressing it. This shift changes the entire dynamic. Others feel your stability. They feel your emotional discipline. They feel the rhythm of someone who is not desperate for connection but open to it. This is deeply attractive. Moving with intention also requires you to understand your motives. Before you act, you ask yourself of why am I doing this? What feeling is driving me? What outcome am I hoping for? When your why comes from insecurity, your actions lack alignment. You act in ways that contradict your values. You create expectations that do not match your boundaries. You enter emotional spaces that are not meant for you. But when your why comes from self-respect, everything you do becomes cleaner. Your communication becomes purposeful. Your presence becomes more refined. Anxiety creates urgency. It makes you feel as though everything must be handled immediately or something terrible will happen. But this urgency is an illusion. Most of the time, nothing is actually collapsing. Nothing is running away. What is collapsing is your capacity to remain calm in the face of uncertainty. When you recognize this, you begin to pause. You realize that the pause is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of mastery. The pause gives you space to regulate yourself. It gives you space to understand your emotions rather than act from them. It gives you space to choose your tone, your timing, and your message. This space is where intention is born. A person who practices this kind of deliberate presence becomes someone others feel safe around. Safety is not loud or dramatic. It is steady. It is predictable in the healthiest way. When you move with intention, you create this kind of atmosphere naturally. Moving with intention also transforms how you handle uncertainty in relationships. When someone is distant, unclear, or inconsistent, anxiety often tells you to chase, to seek answers, to demand clarity even when the timing is wrong. But intention tells you to observe, to gather information through actions instead of words, to let things reveal themselves without force. Through observation, you maintain your position. You do not shrink, you do not overextend. You simply watch with awareness. This alone protects your emotional energy and prevents you from stepping into dynamics that weaken you. Another aspect of intention is patience. Patience does not mean waiting passively. It means understanding that meaningful things unfold in their own rhythm. When you act prematurely, you interrupt the natural unfolding. When you act with patience, you allow connection to develop through curiosity, effort, and consistency. Patience is a quiet declaration of strength. It says, I trust myself. I trust the timing. I am not moved by fear. Intention also requires honesty. Honesty with yourself and honesty with others. When you are intentional, you do not pretend to feel something you don't. You do not promise what you cannot deliver. You do not create a false version of yourself in order to be accepted. Anxiety often leads to over-accommodation. You try to fit into someone's world even when it violates your own needs. But intention aligns you with truth. It allows you to express your desires without attachment, your boundaries without aggression, and your feelings without losing your balance. There is a stillness inside intention, a calmness that does not crumble under pressure. You can feel this when someone speaks slowly, moves thoughtfully, or chooses their words with care. Their presence feels different. Intentional people are not rushed by life, they guide their own steps. This quality cannot be faked. It comes from inner alignment, and alignment is magnetic. People feel it even if they cannot articulate it. When you move with intention, your life becomes a series of deliberate choices rather than emotional reactions. You begin to create from a place of power instead of fear. You start forming connections that are balanced instead of chaotic. You become someone whose presence communicates clarity without effort. Your energy becomes more attractive because it is not scattered, it is concentrated and purposeful. And in this concentration, you find a deeper sense of self, one that no longer needs to run, chase, or prove, because it is rooted in awareness rather than anxiety. Emotional stability is one of the most powerful and underrated forms of attraction. It does not rely on appearance, charm, or effort. It is not loud, dramatic, or demanding attention. Instead, it reveals itself through consistency, calmness, and the quiet confidence of someone who knows how to hold their inner world without letting it spill into everything they touch. Emotional stability becomes magnetic because it creates safety, clarity, and reliability in a world where chaos has become normal. People naturally gravitate toward what steadies them, and emotional stability is a steadying presence. To understand why emotional stability is so magnetic, you must first recognize how rare it has become. Many people move through life with unexamined emotions. They react without thinking. They shift from one extreme to another based on someone else's behavior. They carry unresolved wounds from their past and unconsciously hand those wounds to others. They use relationships as a way to soothe their insecurities rather than strengthen their character. When your emotional life looks like this, it creates instability. Instability in your communication, your expectations, your boundaries, and your decisions. But a person who has cultivated emotional stability becomes different. Their presence feels lighter yet stronger at the same time. You feel calmer around them. You feel more grounded. You feel more yourself. Emotional stability creates an environment where others can relax, open up, and trust the connection. It is this emotional environment that makes someone crave your presence without you having to say much at all. Emotional stability begins with self-awareness. You learn to see your emotions as signals rather than commands. You no longer act the moment a feeling appears. Instead, you observe it. You ask where it comes from. You question whether it belongs to the present or to a memory from the past. Through this awareness, you become the master of your emotional state rather than its servant. This mastery is subtle but deeply felt by others. Instead of being pulled by every emotional wave, you become like the calm surface of a lake, reflective, steady, and deep. This stability shows in how you communicate. You do not raise your voice unnecessarily. You do not send impulsive messages. You do not seek reassurance from others to temporarily silence your inner discomfort. Instead, you communicate clearly, calmly, and with intention. Your words become measured not because you are suppressing emotions, but because you are guided by clarity rather than impulse. This kind of communication is rare, and people respect it instinctively. It makes your presence predictable in the healthiest way, a quality that builds trust and emotional safety. Emotional stability also shapes how you handle conflict. Most conflicts escalate because both people are trying to win, prove something, or defend their ego. But a stable person does not enter conflict from the ego. They enter it from the desire to understand, to resolve, and to maintain connection without sacrificing self-respect. They do not react aggressively. They do not shut down. They do not panic at the first sign of discomfort. Instead, they hold themselves steady, and this steadiness diffuses tension. When you can remain calm in moments of friction, others instinctively feel more secure around you. Another aspect of emotional stability is emotional responsibility. You no longer blame others for the feelings inside you. You do not expect someone else to fix your insecurities or fill your unmet needs. You stop outsourcing your emotional well-being. Instead, you take ownership of your emotional patterns and learn how to regulate yourself. This level of responsibility is profoundly attractive because it signals maturity. It shows that you bring emotional clarity into a relationship rather than emotional chaos. People are deeply drawn to those who do not project their pain outward. A person who has processed their wounds carries a different energy, lighter, freer, more spacious. They are not easily triggered. They are not easily threatened. They do not need constant validation. Their self-worth comes from within, not from external approval. This inner strength becomes a stabilizing force for anyone who comes close to them. They feel safe because they are not navigating someone else's emotional storms. Emotional stability also influences how you handle space and closeness. You do not panic when someone takes a step back. You do not force the connection. You do not rush intimacy. You trust the natural rhythm of relationships. This trust is magnetic because it shows you are not driven by fear of loss. A person who is not afraid to lose someone becomes far more attractive than someone who clings. Others sense that your heart is steady, not desperate. They sense that you value yourself too much to chase. They sense that your emotional world is not fragile. When you cultivate emotional stability, your presence becomes something others crave because it gives them access to a feeling they rarely experience within themselves. They feel less stressed. They feel more present. They feel more balanced. They feel more connected. Emotional stability creates a kind of emotional gravity. It pulls others in not through force, but through the comfort of consistency and the strength of inner peace. In silence, in conversation, in conflict, and in everyday interactions, emotional stability communicates one message: I am grounded. This grounding becomes a source of attraction far deeper than anything physical. It is the kind of attraction that lingers long after you leave. It is the kind of presence that becomes unforgettable. It is the kind of energy that makes someone feel safe enough to let down their guard and curious enough to step closer. Emotional stability becomes magnetic because it represents something the world needs more than ever. Calm in chaos, clarity in confusion, depth in a shallow age, and presence in a world constantly distracted. Self-respect is not something you declare. It is something you embody. It is the invisible foundation beneath your choices, your boundaries, your standards, your relationships, and your identity. It quietly shapes how others treat you because it first shapes how you treat yourself. When self-respect is strong, your presence carries a natural authority, an authority that does not intimidate but clarifies. When self-respect is weak, your energy becomes inconsistent, and inconsistency invites confusion, disrespect, and emotional imbalance. Self-respect sets the tone long before words are spoken because it is expressed through behavior, posture, emotional regulation, and the decisions you make when no one is watching. To understand the power of self-respect, you must first understand that people take cues from you. They observe how you carry yourself, how you allow yourself to be spoken to, the boundaries you enforce, the behavior you tolerate, and the standards you maintain. These cues tell them what is acceptable and what is not. When your cues are unclear, when you bend your boundaries to avoid conflict, when you accept crumbs because you fear losing someone, or when you sacrifice your needs to be liked, you send a silent message. or my worth is negotiable. And once that message is sent, it becomes difficult to control the tone of any relationship. Self-respect begins with the understanding that you are responsible for teaching others how to treat you. If you let disrespect slide, you teach them that disrespect is permitted. If you overextend yourself to keep peace, you teach them that your energy is available regardless of their effort. If you stay silent when something hurts you, you teach them that your feelings do not require consideration. Self-respect is the internal alignment that stops you from betraying yourself in these moments. It acts as an inner guardian, reminding you of your worth even when fear urges you to compromise it. This inner alignment becomes magnetic because it signals emotional strength. When you respect yourself, you do not rush toward what is unstable. You do not cling to what is leaving. You do not beg for what is inconsistent. You move from a place of clarity, not desperation. People feel the difference instantly. They notice the calmness in your choices, the steadiness in your presence, and the dignity in your silence. This creates attraction, not because you are withholding affection, but because you are not available in ways that drain your soul. Self-respect also shapes how you speak. Your voice becomes firmer, not harsh but clear. You communicate needs without apologizing. You express boundaries without guilt. You choose honesty even when it is uncomfortable. This kind of communication is rare. Many people either hide their needs to avoid conflict or express them aggressively because they waited too long to speak. But when you communicate with self-respect, your words carry weight because they are rooted in truth, not fear. Another dimension of self-respect is emotional restraint. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means not letting emotions lead you into actions that diminish your dignity. You do not chase someone who is pulling away. You do not send message after message when you feel insecure. You do not react impulsively to attention or rejection. You choose responses that honor your values. Emotional restraint shows that you have the discipline to protect your inner world. This discipline is deeply attractive because it signals maturity and self-mastery. Self-respect also influences the kind of relationships you accept. When you value yourself, you naturally move away from people who drain you, confuse you, or diminish you. You do not stay attached to potential while ignoring reality. You do not remain loyal to people who are inconsistent. You do not invest in situations where your needs are not met. Instead, you choose connections that feel aligned, respectful, and steady. The more aligned your relationships become, the more peaceful your life becomes. Peace is a natural consequence of self-respect. Another powerful aspect of self-respect is the standards you set. Standards are not demands, they are reflections of what you believe you deserve. When your standards are clear, you filter out those who cannot meet them. When standards are low or flexible, you invite individuals who treat you according to their convenience rather than your value. Standards determine the quality of love you receive. They determine the effort someone invests. They determine the level of consistency they maintain. And all of these things begin with how you show up for yourself. Self-respect also affects how you handle solitude. Many people fear being alone, so they accept relationships that diminish them. But when self-respect is strong, solitude becomes a place of regeneration rather than fear. You no longer view being alone as a punishment. You see it as a space to grow, strengthen, and understand yourself. This lack of fear makes you less dependent on external validation. When someone senses that you value your own company, they understand that your presence is not something to be taken lightly. In attraction, self-respect creates a unique form of magnetism. A person who respects themselves is not clingy, jealous, or reactive. They move with calm certainty. They give space without feeling threatened. They express feelings without losing themselves. They stay open without becoming vulnerable to disrespect. Their presence becomes attractive because it feels balanced. Balance is rare. Balance is beautiful. Balance is unmistakably powerful. Self-respect sets the tone because it establishes the emotional environment you will allow in your life. It dictates who gets access to your heart, your time, your energy, and your presence. It determines the frequency at which you vibrate. When that vibration is rooted in dignity, discipline, and self-awareness, it becomes impossible for others to treat you in ways that contradict your worth. Your entire life begins to shift because the tone has been set, not by force, but by the quiet authority of someone who knows who they are and refuses to betray themselves in the name of love, approval, or temporary comfort. Purpose is one of the deepest forms of inner direction a person can carry. It is not just a personal mission or a list of goals. It is the quiet fire that shapes how you move, how you think, how you grow, and how you show up in every area of your life. Purpose gives meaning to your actions and substance to your presence. When you have purpose, you are not simply existing. You are evolving, contributing, and moving towards something greater than the moment you're standing in. And when someone feels this energy from you, your presence becomes valuable in a way that surface-level attraction cannot match. A person without purpose tends to drift. Their emotions guide them more than their principles. Their decisions are reactive instead of intentional. They seek fulfillment from external sources. Attention, validation, affection, because they lack an internal source of direction. When someone's life has no sense of movement, their presence feels empty. Others may enjoy them for a moment, but there is nothing for them to follow, nothing that inspires, nothing that shapes. It is difficult for someone to crave your presence when your life does not carry its own trajectory. But a person with purpose radiates a different kind of energy. Their presence feels alive. They are connected to something deeper than daily emotion. They wake up with direction. They move with intention. They speak with clarity. They pursue growth not to impress others, but to become the fullest version of themselves. This creates a sense of gravity around them. Others feel pulled in, not because of external performance, but because of the inner momentum that purpose creates. Purpose also makes your presence valuable because it shows that your life has structure. You are not waiting for someone else to give you meaning. You are not relying on another person to fill your emptiness. You have your own journey, your own vision, your own goals. When people sense this, they treat you differently. They respect your time. They value your attention. They approach you with seriousness rather than casual convenience. Purpose teaches others that your life is not something to interrupt thoughtlessly. It communicates that your presence is not something to be taken lightly. Purpose also elevates your standards. When you are focused on growth, you naturally move away from people who stagnate or distract you. You become more discerning about who you let into your emotional world. You no longer entertain relationships that drain your energy or pull you off your path. This selectiveness is attractive because it shows self-worth. It shows you are not seeking company from a place of loneliness, but from alignment. People sense this and are drawn to it because it is rare to meet someone who values their life path more than temporary comfort. Another reason purpose makes your presence valuable is that it creates emotional independence. When your life is centered around meaningful goals, you do not cling to relationships out of fear. You do not panic when someone becomes distant. You do not collapse when you face uncertainty. Your emotional stability increases because you have something solid anchoring you. You become less reactive, less needy, less dependent. This emotional independence becomes attractive because it signals strength. A person who is not consumed by insecurity naturally gives others space to feel and explore their own emotions. This space builds curiosity and respect. Purpose also strengthens your confidence. Not the loud, performative confidence that depends on attention, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are growing. Confidence shaped through purpose is steady, grounded, and authentic. It is built through discipline, self-improvement, and consistency. People notice this kind of confidence because it is not performed, it is lived. It shows in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you set boundaries, and the way you make decisions. Someone who carries this grounded confidence naturally becomes more attractive because they do not need to prove anything. Their presence speaks for them. Purpose shapes the way you use your time. You become more intentional about where your energy goes. You do not waste hours worrying, overthinking, or chasing people. Instead, you invest your time into things that strengthen you. This makes your presence more valuable because others see that being with you requires effort, intention, and respect. You are not simply available to anyone at any time. You are building something meaningful, and anyone who wants a place in your life must rise to that level. Purpose also expands your emotional depth. When you are working towards something meaningful, you experience challenges, growth, setbacks, and breakthroughs. These experiences widen your understanding of yourself and others. You become more empathetic, more patient, more wise. Your presence gains layers, substance, and richness. People crave depth because so much of modern connection feels shallow. When you live with purpose, you bring depth into every interaction. Not through words, but through the energy of someone who has lived, learned, and risen. In relationships, purpose creates balance. You do not lose yourself in another person. You do not sacrifice your path for romance. You do not make someone else the center of your identity. Instead, you allow love to complement your purpose rather than replace it. This balance makes your presence powerful because it shows you can give affection without losing your direction. It shows that you are capable of connection without abandoning your individuality. This is the foundation of healthy attraction. Two complete people choosing each other, not two incomplete people clinging to each other. Ultimately, purpose makes your presence valuable because it gives your life meaning, and meaning is magnetic. When you know who you are and what you are moving toward, your presence carries a sense of direction that others feel. They sense the passion behind your discipline. They sense the strength behind your calmness. They sense the fire behind your silence. Purpose turns your presence into something unforgettable. Not because you are trying to be unforgettable, but because you are living from the deepest part of yourself,